Christine, remember when you were a kid and you thought that your career was going to be this like perfect straight line trajectory?
Oh my, yes. That is not at all what happened. It ended up being way more of a squiggle than I could have ever imagined. And I am so happy that I embraced all of the squiggles along the way. Hello, and welcome back to Embrace the Squiggle. I'm Christine Thody, your co-host, along with
Colleen.
And we are here with Jodi Wellman. So Jodi Wellman is a speaker, author, and facilitator on living lives worth living. She founded 4,000 Mondays to help people make the most of the time they are lucky to be above ground. With 25 years of corporate leadership, I know I'm already excited, of corporate leadership experience, most recently as Senior VP of Operations at a leading health and lifestyle organization, Jodi has led private CEO advisory boards and coaches teams to work well and live even better. Jodi has a master's of applied positive psychology from the University of Pennsylvania, where she is also an assistant instructor and facilitator in the Penn Resilience Program. She's an ICF professional certified coach. And her book, which I actually started it, Jodi. I haven't quite finished it, and I'll tell you why when we get going here. Yeah. You Only Die Once, How to Make It to the End with No Regrets, made Adam Grant's summer reading list and was a top 3 psychology book of 2024. By the Next Big Idea Club, curated by Malcolm Gladwell, Susan Cain, Adam Grant, and Dan Pink, all of my favorites. Oh my goodness. Jodi has been featured in the New York Times, Oprah Daily, Fast Company, CNBC, Forbes, Psychology Today, the LA Times, and she's got a TEDx talk called How Death Can Bring You Back to Life, with over 1.3 million views. Jodi, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here with you both.
I know. And you're a powerful force for sure. I've been following you on Instagram. That's how we became connected.
Yeah.
So listeners, cold reach outs, I tell you, they work. Look at me sitting here with Jodi. And every day you appear in my feed with some beautiful message that all of our listeners need to start paying attention to. So I appreciate your time joining us today.
Thank you for the invite.
You're very welcome. I really want to spend a lot of time on the book that you've written because there is some magical messages in there. And I actually set a goal of reading your book, or I was doing the audiobook. And I downloaded it in California and I was like, oh, it's like 8 hours, 10 hour, like I got this. And then I was like, no, I don't got this. And the reason why is it really makes you stop and reflect.
I've heard that before from people. And I'm happy to hear you say this because knowing me, I would just listen straight through and be like, all right, check that box, I'm done. But I went and made it interactive, damn it. And so, you do need to pause and stop and think and hopefully, maybe if you want to, make some edits to live your life more like what you'd imagined. So I'm glad to hear that you're doing it as intended.
Yeah, I've slowed it down. Very validating. I'm definitely checking a lot of the boxes. And yet there were some moments where I was like hitting the 30-second rewind button going, I need to hear that again. Anyway, so we'll dive into that. But traditionally, we always want our guests to just walk us through how you got to where you are today. So I'm going to let's just go back to little Jodi.
Yes.
And do you remember what you thought you wanted to be when you were all grown up?
Absolutely. Growing up near Toronto, Ontario, Canada, I was very clear that I was going to spend half my time being a nurse and half my time being an artist. So somehow I would get very creative giving IVs or something. I don't know how it was going to work. But those were the two professions that, the nursing thing fell by the wayside, of course. And the artist thing is always fuzzy because even as I say this, I recognize so I illustrated my book, but I don't identify with myself as being an artist. In fact, I will sometimes even Now this is going to become a therapy session, but anyways, I sometimes will like downplay my identity about like, well, I just do doodles, when it's like, well, or you could just say that you are an artist, which clearly I'm struggling to do. So I maybe in some ways ended up coming through on the initial plan for the artist side, but yeah, nursing, yeah, that's for other amazing people, not me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You went through university, college,
Yep.
and what did you come out the other end with? Just
Came
out
out
of
the other end with my own little prepackaged individualized studies.
oh,
And
fun.
so I got to mix and match because I change schools often, which was not like me because I like to have this like a kind of a mission that I go after. But I really was doing the sampler platter. And I just love that because I think that that in some ways set the stage for my career to come, which is a little bit of a I can pursue this and I'm allowed to change it. Like I don't have to stick to the path just because I said this is what I will study, and I will go to this university to study it in that voice. So
Yeah.
I did the mix and match, and then came out with a BA at that time. And then I knew that I wanted to get more into psychology, and so that's where the program, the MAP program, so Masters of Applied Positive Psychology at Penn, came in 2019 and into 2020, and that was, that was an awesome cherry on top of all things education.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
an amazing program. I know a couple of people that have gone through it
Oh,
locally.
do you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
We'll have
had
to
a
compare notes later about their
yeah,
names. And
you
yeah.
probably do. Yeah, we will. For sure. No, and I've looked at that program. I think it's a very interesting program and
Mhm.
definitely, supported by some movers and shakers in the world. So good for you. Spent some time in corporate. Tell us about corporate life.
Yes. Okay. So 17 years was I was going to say my penance. I made it out alive.
Yeah.
I loved it until I didn't, but I got into the health and wellness field. So I started working in health clubs and then managing them and then getting into the corporate environment so that I became an executive. And I loved so much the inner workings of the business, the behind the scenes, and then from the broad perspective of leadership, but also in an industry that's just pretty cool, that like we used to joke because I used to, spend time in the clubs, not working, from the corporate perspective. I would maybe the first few years I was working in the field, right? And like that's an industry where you feel better about yourself. You come in and you might not really feel so hot being there, but by the time you leave, no one is not happier about themselves and feeling better. It's the ultimate confidence boost. It's just well-being encapsulated in a really cool thing. So I love that industry, and then I just became fascinated by the business of it. Of course, it's interesting, and so I did this for 17 years. I had the back to my comment about the variety package. I was really fortunate because I worked for two different organizations. And as you grow, it really suited me because there was room to grow and try different things. So I was fortunate because I was kind of doing well at the stuff I was doing, and that made me that sort of stroke like the ego about like, yay, I keep getting promoted, yay, they like me. And so I had chances to do things that I normally would not have applied for example, like once you're in the mix. And that's one of the things that I find fascinating and amazing about getting in with a decent company. It's like I I struggle sometimes with like I love agency about saying like have a clear vision of where you want to go. And yet I also like the fact that sometimes you can kind of jump into the river and let it take you places, right? Where as long as you're not unhappy, like let the next opportunity when they come knocking, when your boss says, "Hey, we have this opportunity for you to run internal communications," and you look and you go, "Yeah, cool, sign me up." So I had so many different jobs at the corporate office over time in different sort of VP capacities until I ended in the senior vice president of operations, which was also all encompassing. So it gave me this chance to just sample and do and grow and lead and do all sorts of different things, which I would never have actively applied for on my own.
Yeah.
Christine and I talk about this often, right? Of
Yeah.
folks being so afraid to apply for things unless they have 100% of the skills, and how
Yeah.
we're always saying, 70 to 80% is really where you should be at. And the majority of jobs out there these days, we're not neurosurgeons, right? That we're not doing jobs that have a very, very, very specific skill attached. A lot
Right.
of us are doing jobs that if you have good general work ethic and good general skills, you can squiggle into them, right? If you're
Oh,
willing to put yourself out there.
absolutely. Yeah. Squiggle is just I love your language, and obviously it's who you are, the podcast. It like leading a squiggly life, I believe, is where so much of the opportunity for vitality is. Because we will limit ourselves if we don't think, well, this isn't on the path. Yeah. What about like grabbing a little weed whacker and like macheteing maybe your own way and look at what that, because here's, I think we, as you guys see this all the time with your clients and folks, like you could, like for me, I think about the opportunities that came my way. Hey, how about being a VP of brand development? I'm like, yeah, I'll figure that shit out. But what if, so the chance is I could do it and realize, yeah, this really just isn't for me. I'm glad I got to do it for 18 months. For me, everything was like 18 months. I like to look at life for some reason in those segments, at least career wise. And it was like, maybe it's not going to be the long-term play, but it's having trust also. Like, I'm going to do a good job, even if I don't love it, but something cool is going to come along that I'll get to hop to. Or maybe I do love it, and this becomes this passion I didn't know I even had inside me. It like sparked a flame. And then maybe I'll go
Yeah.
to another company where I'll become like a brand empire leader extraordinaire. I don't know. But feeling that like the confidence and the faith of like, I kind of can't go wrong. Because if I like it, that's awesome. If I don't like it, that's still awesome because it's going to lead me to the next thing.
And I think that's where people sort of, I'm just going to say it, get it wrong, in that it is okay to explore the things that you don't like.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so many people don't actually straddle the things that I don't like and the things that I like or I love.
Yeah.
It like have a foot in each and bring both into awareness.
Yes. I love that notion. And there's this, concept, part intellectual humility, like knowing enough to know, like, yeah, I don't know it, but having that, well, back to growth mindset and all the concepts, like, what would it take for you to feel like you didn't have to be embarrassed or unsafe, like reframing failure, right? Like, this is a awesome scrape of a life well lived. Like I like the idea, and I will probably contradict myself massively when we talk about my current career, because I feel
Yeah.
like sometimes it's different when you work for yourself. At least that's the story I'm telling myself about that, which, but when you can try and maybe fall and scrape your knees, like that to me, like that's a life that is an indication, right? That I gave it a go versus the playing it safe and just trying to stay like under the radar or like not get noticed, or maybe just, yeah, back to the point you were making, Colleen, around especially women's confidence. Like I got to make sure it's a slam dunk before I apply. Well, what if it wasn't? Like,
Right.
I remember applying for a job that I knew that I couldn't get. This was early days corporate. So I was managing clubs, but I wanted to be the district manager at that time. And I remember like the head honchos were coming in from Chicago, and I was like, well, I have to put my name in the ring. I know I'm not qualified, but I have to go and do this. And so here's just a goofy story. Back in those days, that was in my late 20s. I had an issue with blushing. Like I would get blotchy and I was nervous and excited. And I remember like, okay, I've got this interview. And I know I'm not going to get it, but I need them to know about me so they know I'm ambitious. That was my goal.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I have to, but how do I cover all my embarrassed interview blotches? So I went out, I'll never forget, and bought this like amazing turtleneck that covered like all the way up to my chin with
That's
with
awesome.
a gray suit. I still remember that suit. I wore the crap out of it. But I remember that was my interview, like my armor, like you won't see me blotchy. You're going to see just me being ambitious. And yeah, I didn't get the job, but I wasn't supposed to. I was just supposed to be this keener who was excited to come in and pretend she wasn't blotchy underneath.
I find in cases like that too, that often they say, you know what, this isn't the right job for you, Jodi. Like you're not here yet, but you know what we do have? We have this for you instead,
Yes.
right? We opened
Yeah.
another door for you because now we know who you are. Like we know you're excited about this. We know you want to jump and that you're hungry for that
Yeah.
next level.
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
sometimes it's particularly internally, God, always
Mhm.
apply for the things if you
Mhm.
have an interest. If you don't have an interest, then you don't like don't apply for things that you have zero interest in. But if you think maybe that's me in 5 years, why not try
Yeah.
now? You never know.
Right. Right. Get some reps in.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Practice.
Mm.
Practice on the roles that you don't want or
Yeah.
you're underqualified for, or heck, like fuck, apply to the ones you're overqualified. Go and practice,
Mhm.
polish up your story.
Yeah.
Because when the right one does land,
Yeah.
you're going to nail
Yeah.
it. That dream company, the dream role, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But go out and practice and it's exploration. I can't believe how many people will not lean in to just exploratory conversations.
Oh. Yeah, it's funny because there is risk, and I say this because I have in other parts, career-wise, where it's, well, the opportunity for rejection and or failure, however you conflate them maybe. Well, that's obviously unappetizing. But if we reframe it too, you can see it's on a lot of mugs, like, do something every day that scares you. I mean, I don't know if I need to do it every day, but
Not
like
every day.
the
For sure,
idea
not every
that,
day.
yeah, like, how about we
Yeah,
just dose this out a little bit,
on
guys?
a regular
But
basis.
something invigorating, right? It's
Yeah.
like I put myself out there. So I had an email this morning from a dear friend in Boise, which is not super dear. I haven't. She's a cool friend. I say she's not dear because I would have known this, but she shared she applied for this interesting grad school program, and she's nervous. She doesn't know if she's going to get in, but hey. And I'm like, good for you. Like you're sitting here in that excitement limbo phase of waiting and wondering if you got in. And you're either going to get it and it'll feel great, or she won't, and that won't feel great. But what will always remain is that feeling of, I tried, I gave it a go. And
Yeah.
maybe she just needs to reapply. So I guess I'm just becoming more interested. Maybe it's through our conversation. Thank you for helping me have this epiphany, ladies, that the more chances we have to just put ourselves out there, even for rejection, like isn't that where the life is, rather than I just feel like it's like a bit of a flat line on one of those medical monitors, which usually a flat line is not super good.
Well,
Right.
it's so true, and you can make each moment or each experience whatever. Here we go. The fuck you want it to be. Like
Mhm.
yesterday, I went and raced, and it was slick, and it was muddy, and it was like one wrong move. We did have somebody fall and potentially break their ankle, and I thought, you know what? I don't need this. I got a full week. I got life to
Mhm.
live, and I can't be the one that gets like the 911 call. And
Wow.
so I pulled back and I made the experience about skill development, not
Mm.
racing for the podium. And I came off and I was so proud of myself. B, I just had so much gratitude for being able to show up at a start line again,
Mm.
because 2 months ago I was not well, and I was not healthy, and I needed to get healthy. So the fact that I now am back up at a fitness level and health wise, that I'm showing
Yeah.
up at a start line, and now I can make my 45-minute race, whatever the fuck
Mm.
I want. And I made
Mm.
it a workout, and I made it
Mm.
up leveling, skill development.
Oof.
And
Wow.
right. And that's the thing, is that people put so much pressure on themselves and they think people are watching.
Yeah.
I got lapped. And guess what? Nobody
Yeah.
fucking knows unless they have
Mm.
time on their hands and they
Mhm.
want to go and look at the results. Then they'll
Mhm.
figure out that I got lapped.
Mhm.
But really, I showed up and I had a
Yeah.
great day, and I got
Oh,
exercise, and I had social time, and I was part of a great community. And it's like,
yes.
check, check. And guess what? I had a great night's sleep. So,
Oh.
it's like, it's just that reminder that you got to just lean into the
Mm.
experiences. And this is
Mhm.
probably a really great segue
Mm.
into
Hmm.
what you are real, like your message out to
Yeah.
the world right now is
Yeah.
that we only have 4,000 Mondays on
Mhm.
average-ish.
Yeah.
Um, and this is also where you and I, from what I can gather and piece together about your story, do actually have some parallelness.
Mm.
And we can talk about that over coffee because this is
Mm.
about you. Um, but let's squiggle.
Mm.
You've written this book.
Yeah.
It is about living the fuck out of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
Well
did you get
said.
how did you get there?
Yeah. Um, living the fuck out of your life before you die. So like the emphasis, it's funny because it's seems like it's a book about death because it is you only die once. And I refer to that a lot, but it's in service of living. So the point I think is we need an uncomfortable nudge. And most of us have these ideas about how we want to live and how we're going to do it one day, or we have like plans and goals and things and and we will take life for granted because that's what we're wired to do, and we will defer, and we will, as I like to say, like postpone our existence because it's this notion like I'll get to it someday. Oh, well, you know what? When work dies down, okay, well, I'll keep waiting on that one, or like when the kids are out of the house, or when we're waiting to live. And or let's just be super honest, because I know you guys in your like you guys get it coaching world. It's like we're kind of afraid to actually go ahead and do these things. I do think sometimes the excuse of I'll do it later, I'm going to do it later is just a comfortable thing, because sometimes maybe to apply back to school or to go and try the pottery class or to do the things just feels uncomfortable. So it's easier not to do it. And yet we need the reminder that we're going to die. Life is short. So we get 4,000 Mondays, and I am very fixated on having us all count how many we have left. So this week, like 1,740. And that is what triggers this thing in psychology and beyond psychology, actually, even in economics, like temporal scarcity, which is this notion like when I see something that is limited time only, it's rare, it's gonna go away, its perceived value obviously spikes. And so that's what life is. And so we do need, unfortunately, like as a positive psychology practitioner, I just wish it was easier that we could all just be intrinsically motivated and be like, yes, I'm going to go ahead and do this thing. And we didn't need deadlines, but we need the ultimate deadline of life, which is like, it's ending, honey.
Yeah.
You might get more than the 4,000, but you also might get the raw end of the deal, and you might not have as many. So why don't we get on with the dreams that we have for ourselves? So it's very much this like, it's like morbid motivation, but yes, wrapped up in a lot of fun and a lot of doodles. Yeah.
Absolutely. So where did the motivation come to make this your like your purpose, your
My
message,
thing.
your thing?
The biggest thing I track it back to is that my dear mom died in her late 50s. And when she died, I was cleaning up her place, and I threw away her dreams. Just, I can't say more blatantly than that. Like drawers of dreams. She had this roll top desk, and I actually drew it for one of my presentations recently because I just wanted to be so clear, like, do not die with your dreams in these drawers, like she did. So she had all these stories. She was a writer, like she was very creative, and drawings and business plans and all these ideas that she kept thinking she would do later. And she also just was afraid, so she was postponing it. And I realized as I trashed her really cool creative plans for herself that she didn't execute, it made me sad for her life. Like it actually elicited pity, which I think is like a grotesque emotion I never wanted to have for that feeling about my mom. And it also made me realize, all right, sweetie, like mother, like daughter. Like I knew I had dreams. So I was working in my corporate environment, and I was starting to feel the itch about wanting to make a move. And I still stayed for quite a while because, again, the trajectory was cool, but I also got scared. But I think that always stuck with me, this notion of don't die with regrets. Like that for me is one of the most horrifying ideas for me and for all of us. This idea that we could get to the end and have these sort of notions and plans and things we wanted to do that we didn't just because we thought we could do it later. Holy shit, guys. Like, what are we waiting for? Right?
What are we waiting for?
Well, and I think so many of us, we put this like almost checklist together of, right? Like I have to do this before I do this, before I do that, right? I think of everything from, right? I have to lose weight before I do this. I have to get in shape before I do this. I have to get this degree before I do this, right?
Yes.
That we all put this checklist in our mind of,
Yeah.
okay, right? Like we have to be able to do these things before we whatever. And I'm always like, what if we got rid of that before piece? Like, what if we just skipped that step?
Oh my gosh. I am so with you. When I finished my grad school program and I decided that I was going to start 4,000 Mondays, because at that point I was making a change I was in a business partnership with somebody who was amazing. And I was like, I want to start 4,000 Mondays. Well, fear was like an omnipresent figure, right? Like, what are you doing? You don't know what you're doing. And that was true, but it wasn't. And it was one of those, like, so that there's a common, again, back to things put on mugs, like start before you're ready. This comes back to the beginning of our conversation, like apply for the job before you're ready, figure it out, going for it anyway. And I think that I realized the irony that if I was, first of all, so I studied this in school for my grad school program. I made it my thesis about memento mori, which, by the way, is that it's a Latin phrase that translates to remember that we must die. And it's centuries old. We've all been struggling with this for centuries as humans, needing to not take life for granted. Like, I realized the irony of every time I play it small, or every time I delay a dream, I am, first of all, I'm obviously superhuman, and that helps, like, I'm not going to ever be perfect at this. And I need the reminders to live. I do all this for me and for us, but I'm like my number one client, right? The reminder to just do the thing that is maybe interesting but scary, or even if it's not, like, even just the small decisions to live, like saying yes to going to, I don't know, like a concert when you're like, oh, but it's going to be past my bedtime. I'm very, very particular about my bedtime, right? If it's past 9, like, count McKay, right?
Oh yeah.
Which we campaign, like, I want them to make matinee concerts and other things. Anyway,
4
I don't
o'clock.
understand.
like,
Right. I don't understand why some of these big shows, right, are not at 4 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We got a campaign.
Well, they're getting old too. I went to Keith Urban concert. Oh my goodness. We all were slow. He's still fabulous, but honestly, we should have started the show at 4 o'clock for his sake, for my sake, and everybody else's sake.
Right, guys, let's just make it better anyway. Yeah, we're clearly going to have to start a whole
movement
on this. But, like, saying yes to choices in life that just make you feel a little bit alive. Like, not everything has to have big stakes, right? It could just be the little things, like, and I actually make it a huge emphasis in the book, and also just all the work I do and then workshops and stuff. It's like, what are the little things that you might be wanting to do that you're not making time for, that could help just define that today was a good day out of your limited days, or what are things that if you were going to die tonight, just like totally hypothetical, that you would be kicking yourself for about not doing, and back to the regrets. And again, they don't have to be, and oftentimes they're not necessarily the monstrous things, right? Like, oh, I would regret that I never started my nonprofit. Well, okay, maybe. But for some of us, I would never regret. I always wanted to learn how to speak Italian, and I never did. Well, I look at that and I call them pregrets, and because they're regrets in, like, beforehand, like, you're not dead yet, so it's not officially a regret, because you still have time, if you want, to download Duolingo or whatever we're doing these days and how to learn Italian, right? Anything that you might think that you could give yourself one of those little pangs of regret for, you may still have a chance, right, to take advantage of it. And that is the difference between, a life that, like, living like we mean it, living and showing up for life, rather than just kind of ambling our way through back to the lazy river and just kind of like letting it carry us, but not being conscious and not being intentional and not having urgency. And I could keep going on with words here, guys. We know this.
Well, and it's fear. Yeah. It's fear. And I mean, your book has so many brilliant, thought-provoking, reflective questions. And, that would almost be like the first one I would put out to the ether through our podcast is, what is holding you back? What is standing in your way? What are you afraid of really, truly living? Go ahead.
You go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I spent Saturday at an event, or chunk of Saturday at an event, and the keynote speaker, her opening line to her keynote was her words were, and everybody has their own take, the biggest regret people have on their deathbed is not living authentically. Which to me is just at the end of the day, when you climb into bed and you're just drifting off, were you true to yourself that day? Whether it's doing things, checking the list, living out your 4,000 Mondays, were you just simply true to yourself?
Mm, mm, I like that.
And I see so many people. I too have a mother that passed away. And hopefully I don't cry. I feel like I'm living life for both of us now.
Oh, wow. What's that like?
It's a lot some days, but it does feel on purpose, like on my purpose. My mom too she didn't get the life that I think that she truly, deeply desired. And so I've done everything opposite to her, like everything. Like some days I feel like she actually, and now I'm getting all wooey here, but she shows up as a hummingbird. And there's a story behind that. And as you know, Palm Springs is full of hummingbirds, but
Yeah.
that's her home. It's also why I spend so much time down there. And she presents herself. So I was actually sitting out back last week and having a conversation with my dad and got buzzed by a hummingbird. And in the middle of the conversation, Dad goes, and I said, "Oh, did I just get buzzed?" I didn't even have to turn around. I didn't even look. And I said, "Oh," I said, "she's eavesdropping." I said, she's arriving into the conversation. And there's a story behind the whole hummingbird thing. But I know that my mom didn't get to live the life that she deserved and truly, I think deep down, really truly desired. And so
Yeah.
I have made it my life's mission to do
Yeah.
everything opposite.
Oh, yeah.
And I do feel like she is in moments is coming along for the ride, so to speak.
I love that. Yeah. I've written about that before because I do think that um, there are role models in our lives like parents where it's either that your parents can be examples of how to live, like
Yes.
they're nailing it, and they're like they make comments like, "Man, if I was to go today, I'd be fine. Like I killed it." Like that's in their
Yeah.
version of it because we all have our own definition
Yeah.
of what a good life is. And I think for many of us, like myself included, it's a cautionary tale. Like it's like, "Thank you, Mom. I love you." For helping to teach the lesson of how like I
Yeah.
don't want it to be.
Yeah.
And that can be, as we know, just as instructive, just like a bad boss can be like super helpful in helping you like not be that kind of leader when you get promoted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I didn't know it until, well, my mom passed away 7 years ago. But honestly, this is something that I think I've more truly embraced and leaned into, like maybe in the last 12 to 18 months. I'm a big 6, 12, 18 monther as well. I might push up to 24, but I kind of am more dance in that space too. And I now looking back to some decisions I made in my 20s, and I'm like, oh, this makes sense now. This makes
Yeah.
sense. This and it's healing. It's like, oh yeah, okay. I wasn't just resisting life. I was making a decision
Yeah.
that I now can see why I made those decisions.
Yeah. Beautiful.
No, yeah, I mean, you just have to, you got to just live life. I mean,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. I thinking about your comment too about, fear and how that will prevent us. There's something that, and again, back to this sort of seemingly unappetizing idea of death, uh, sizing it, right? So I think that for many of us, when we do the thing, like the idea of like, what are we waiting for? When we're all reminded, because maybe there has been a very visceral moment, like a very clear reminder of death, not just like listening to this podcast reminding us, like, time's ticking, bitch, but that a loved one dies. And maybe not for this example, maybe it's not someone who's super close, because then, of course, we have the grief experience, which can cloud a lot. But the moments where we go, whoa, like this is a real wake up call, because someone I know who's maybe a similar age or not, but that, wow, like it's a reminder that if like I know we're temporary, but now I'm really reminded of it. And that's when it goes, what do I have to lose? Like those are the moments oftentimes, don't you find, when it does kind of splash cold water on our faces to go, wow, like why am I not booking that trip? Or why am I not going and volunteer? Why am I putting off these things that I want to do? Because holy cow, like my dear friend died at 62, and like that is so ridiculously possible to happen to any of us.
Yeah.
That's why there's a chapter in the book about even our own near-death experiences. Not many of us have them. I think like 5% of people end up having one in life. or a brush with death. So that could be like a nasty diagnosis, something that really jostles you, right? And you go, whoa, like I was reminded of how precious this life is because we like we do take it for granted. We're psychologically wired to do that, or else we would be, needing Xanax all day, every day.
Sitting in the
And
corner,
so,
sucking our thumbs all day, right?
right, that's probably better than the Xanax. I don't know, but we need sometimes this sort of like that's what I want for all of us is like how do we have a near death experience without actually having to almost die because that seems sort of risky. I just want that feeling of like, oh, wow, like look what I almost lost. And then in light of that, like when the drama settles and you go, wow, like I get to be here, which is a line I use a lot. Like I'll say that, like I get to be here. What the fuck am I putting off? Like why am I doing I I am here. So many aren't. I may not be here tomorrow. I mean, I don't actually believe that, but you never know. What could I do today that is like almost like proof of life? Showing myself like I I do get to be here and I am going to make the most of this day and not in an I want to be very clear. I get defensive about that right away because I think that then there's this like you got to get out there and ooh, do all the things and it sounds exhausting and it's like too much versus like no, but what's the sweet thing that you might love? Like maybe for some of us it's that absorbing a day today is like I'm going to sit in the backyard for just like 40 minutes and just sit with maybe I might read or maybe I would bring my laptop out, but I'll look at the hummingbirds and that's normally a time I would normally just be plugging away doing work, but like that's a choice, for example, for aliveness. And it didn't have to cost money and it didn't really take any extra time, but it's just a choice. And so back to the idea of sometimes about it's the simple things. It doesn't mean we have to go and book a Mediterranean trip.
Right. And I think it's taking those steps, right? Not to get in the we have to do this before that, but to think about is there a piece of this that I can do now? Right? Is there a piece of this that I mean, for me, travel is a huge one. And it's always, okay, what piece of this can I do now? Can I start planning it? Can I figure out how to save for it? Right? If it's something giant. We had a friend who went on safari recently and I was, a 14-day safari. And I was like, wow, I really want to do this. And my husband very quickly said, no, I have no interest. He's like, I have no interest. And I was like, oh, so instantly I'm like, all right, how do I get that in my future without him? Because he doesn't want to go and it's too expensive to, I'm not going to grab
I
someone.
can think of a friend of yours.
That's what I figured,
go with you.
This might be budding right here.
We talk embrace the squiggle the whole time. We write the whole thing off.
There we go.
Hey,
right?
There you
but
go.
I think it's those things and I also really encourage people to think about what is the positive thing that happened today, right? Kind of getting people to see that positive, because I think when we start kind of this almost like bucket listy kind of list, you start to get in that mindset of look at all the things I haven't done, right? Or look at all the things I want to do, but I don't have the money to do, right? I think people can get down that road quickly. And so it's also, I think, guiding people and pushing them a little bit more on the, okay, what are the good things? Like, what are things you can do?
I call it an adventure list, not a bucket list.
That's great.
I'll add that to my adventure list.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I like both of the things you're commenting on together, that the recognizing the small stuff. I think we're on the same page with that, because I think that for most of us, a life worth living just comes in these tiny little increments, because that's all life is, right? It's just like 10 minutes at a time joined together. And so sometimes it is just a conscious choice about how I have this 10-minute block. Maybe I'm not in a meeting or I'm not being pulled by kids or whatever your deal is in life. How do I want to make this something that actually feels like it's going to boost my sense of aliveness? And maybe that does mean intentionally texting a friend that you're going to have a laugh with. Or maybe it does mean stopping and saying, I'm going to read a chapter out of a book that is a fiction book, not just a business book or whatever the thing is for you, right? But it's being deliberate about it. And sometimes like we believe we have to do, I tend to suffer from all or nothing thinking too. Many of us are like, well, I've got it. In order for it to be a good day, it's got to be like a whole event or a thing where it's like
a 4-week-long safari, right?
Right. What about if it was just a 10-minute increment where you're doing something awesome, or like planning a new recipe and making the meal? Like it can be the simple stuff that we overcomplicate, because it could just be that simple. But again, under the shadow of death. Not to say that every meal you make now has to be done with a Grim Reaper lurking over you, although that's my style.
My last meal ever.
But
Oh
like,
my gosh.
but we need again, back to the nudge, like back to many of us won't get a job done unless there's a deadline. It's just very
Mhm.
motivating, right? It's like left to our own devices. That's what's so weird about life is like we have desires. There's a quote by Anatole France that I will botch, but um, it's that man is one of the only animals that wants another life, like wants to keep living, but doesn't know what to do with this one. It's like
Oh,
we keep like we have
yeah.
this like we have ideas, but then we're actually squandering it. And the word squander I use consciously because it's so much of my ethos about living a squander-free life. Because again, squandering is something that we naturally do when we just take our eye off the ball, and that's okay. Sometimes we just have to chill out and have a really zoned out, week or month, especially when there's a lot going on. But generally, it's like, wait a minute, I feel this way every month when the calendar changes. Like, whoa, like the month just passed. And I think of it like, what do I have to show for it? And I want to be super clear. It's not show for it like what looked good on Instagram, because I don't even show that shit there. I just think like how did I show that I was alive to myself?
Yeah.
Or what do I want to do in this next month, which is obviously more productive than like, licking your wounds about what you didn't do. What do I want to do? And I'm a big fan of, this is just based in the research of positive anticipation. It's having something to look forward to that you have initiated or planned that is within a week, a month, and a year. And it, again, doesn't need to be massive and pricey. It could just be like, I'm really looking forward. We're having friends over tomorrow night for dinner, and I'm going to make uh, something I haven't made before, and I'm kind of excited about it and nervous about it, but it's gonna be fun. And we've got like way too much wine picked out, so already it's gonna be great, even if the food's crap. And like, that's exciting. And then same thing, what's within the month and what's within the year. Stuff that is not necessarily groundbreaking, but it makes you feel good to be alive.
Well, and I think that's the magic right there, is that humans are constantly chasing
Mm-hmm.
the next big thing, or the
Mm.
grand fireworks display, and they forget about the micro moments, and especially if they're overachievers or they've got perfectionism issues, and
Yeah.
I'm just naming myself here. And it's, but what about the micro moments?
Yeah.
I have to share this story. So I left Palm Springs on Thursday night. My dad was there. We crossed over for a handful of days. And somewhat jokingly, maybe not, there was a kind of a moment there where father daughter whatever was going on. And I turned around and I said, "You know what, Dad? While I'm gone," I said, "I would like you to sit in a space of gratitude." Like, my dad doesn't do this shit. And I said, I want you to have some moments of gratitude and being grateful that I said, there are a lot of fathers out there where their children do not spend time with them.
Mm.
And I said, you have 4
Mm.
that, number 1, spend time with you, and number 2, actually get along and like each other. I said, because that doesn't happen in every family either.
Mm.
And I silenced him sitting in that chair.
Wow.
And I left him. I said, "Thank you for taking me to the airport.
Yeah.
I will see you in 3 weeks for more quality time."
Oh.
And I have to tell you that, between 2008 and 2018, so 10 years, I spent a lot of my allocated vacation time flying to Palm Springs and spending time with my parents. And I cannot tell you how many times I got on the plane thinking, fuck, I don't want to be spending my time like this.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 2018 and mom checks out. And I went, oh, didn't know it in the moment.
Uh-huh.
But guess what? No regrets when she passed and took her last breath. So again, sometimes you do things not knowing why you're doing them.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden life happens and you go, oh, this makes sense. Now I understand why I was making those decisions.
Yeah.
And, it's really an invitation to whoever might be listening to this episode is celebrate the micro minutes, the
Mm-hmm.
micro moments, because they're bigger than the grand finale.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Colleen,
This
would you
has been
like
such,
to
yes. I
rapid
was
fire us?
gonna say, this has been such a great conversation, Jodi. We love to end with some rapid fire questions just
Woohoo.
to kind of have some fun. Uh, so are you ready? I see you're stretching there, right? It's like, all
Getting
right, here we
limber.
go.
Ready.
Okay.
Okay, first one. Heels or sneakers?
Oh, sneakers now. Don't even. Come on. COVID fixed all that heel problem for
It
us.
sure did.
I love it. Yes. All right. Life would not be complete without.
Mm. Love.
Ooh, love that one.
Me too.
All right. What are you binging or streaming these days?
Oh my gosh. I am so addicted and I love streaming shows. So now it's the question of which one. Let me just buy myself some time. Uh, do your brain go blank when you try and think of a show?
Yes. I'm always like, the one where they do, right? Like that's how I
Yeah, and there's
describe
that
it.
guy.
Yeah.
And
There's the guy
there's
with
like
the hair.
and
Yeah.
he's like a detective. Well, any detective show. We're Slow Horses is definitely on the go.
Ooh, I have
And
not
then
watched
Black
that yet.
Rabbit was a good one.
Yep.
Yeah.
We just finished Game of Thrones. We're like, 15 years behind everybody. So
Hey, yeah.
finally
You didn't need
watched
to be
it.
right.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen it.
Yeah. Took us, forever, but we got there. All right. What is your pump up song? What is your like, here we go song?
Oh, there is a song called The Adventure by Angels and Airwaves that I just love.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
a new one for me too. I
It's
have to like check
obscure.
these
It's
things
obscure,
out.
but it works.
I love obscure. All right.
Mhm.
And let's make sure you understand the shameless plug you're about to get here. What is a book that you would recommend that people read?
Oh, goodness. What a fascinating question. I mean, other than You Only Die Once, How to Make It to the End with No Regrets.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's not
Oh,
yours. This is
like
mine.
that.
But yeah.
Sure.
But yeah,
I'll pick
shameless
that
plug.
one.
Absolutely. Pick your own
Love
book.
it.
I love when we ask people who are authors and they don't say their own book and we're like,
Never.
hello, punt it
Well,
to
thank you for prompting me because I also would have been like, well, I'm not allowed to plug my own. That would make me
Yeah.
look like really, selfish. But now that you prompted me, I'll be that girl. Yeah.
Prompt your own. Yeah. And if you have another one, we'll let you jump in that one too. So
Yeah, thanks. I'm looking all around. There are so many. I read so many books at the same time. I don't know if you guys do that.
Oh, I
yes.
do.
Yes.
Yeah, it might be a problem. But right now I am really getting into hang on. I'm trying to find it over here. I just cast it aside. Um I'm not that big into poetry, but there's a book by David White, Everything is Waiting for You.
Mm,
So I'm just getting into that just for something different.
that feels like it aligns.
I actually know some of his poetry.
It's good stuff.
It is good stuff. You've
Yeah.
just reminded me of that.
Yeah. Give it a
We
go.
we had a guest on here a few months ago who's a poet, and she totally changed my je ne sais quoi towards poetry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's also just different. I think I'm a big fan of like, as we live this life, like shake it up a little bit, like for
Yeah,
novelty.
something
So
different.
it's one of those, why not use your brain in a different way and then read an autobiography and then read a murder mystery and then
I love also with poetry, you can read a page and be done. Like feel like you
exactly. You
accomplished
feel so
something.
accomplished.
Yeah.
Or
You
a
don't have to
few
read a whole book.
lines.
today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so
What?
impactful. Like
Yes.
sometimes I'll read something and I'm like, oh God, that just like needed that today.
Well,
Didn't see that coming.
Thank you so much, Jodi. This has been such a fun conversation. If our listeners wanted to follow you, find you, where would they find you on social media? What's the best place for them to follow you?
Well, thank you for asking. I would say probably Instagram at 4000 Mondays. And then my website is 4000mondays.com. And there's a calculator there on the resource page where it can calculate your Mondays for you. So that's fun.
And is it the numbers 4,000 or spelled out 4,000?
It is spelled out, but if you do the numbers, I've arranged for you to get there.
Get there too. Excellent.
Yeah. All
Very
roads
good.
lead you. Yeah.
Because that's instantly what I thought is which way you cast it. I have to do it.
Yep.
Well,
Good question.
Thank you so much for being our guest. This has been fantastic.
Oh,
If today's conversation sparked something for you as our listeners here, an idea or question, maybe you want to ready to go try something new to jump into your 4,000 Mondays, we'd love to hear about it. You can drop us a message on Instagram, LinkedIn, or TikTok. We are Embrace the Squiggle on all of them. And that is what we're here for. We also have our open call right now for guests for 2026. So if you think you'd like to be on the show, go check us out on any of those. Send us a message or hit us up at embracethesquiggle.com and apply to be a guest next year. Thanks so much, Jodi. This has been fantastic, and we will all see you soon.
thank you both.
Is it time for you to add a little squiggle to your career? Join us every week to hear from another guest talk about how they embrace the squiggle.
Subscribe now and find your inspiration.